Hey, what's up, coaches? This is Coach Taylor with Keep Your Pads Down podcast. And today we are talking about an issue that all of us coaches see at every stage of the season with our players, and that is a bad first step. And that can be a really serious issue. It always doesn't necessarily seem like one at the beginning, but if it's left ignored or you don't correct it, then it can really lead to some issues with your defensive lineman on down the road. And so as we are all heading back and getting to work with our players, most of us, this is a really something that we can afford to spend a lot of time on and pay attention to and hammer really hard into our guys about taking proper first steps. And so what we're going to do today is talk about some examples of bad first steps that your kids will take, that my kids take. I'm going to show you the film of them doing so, and then how to fix that with some really, really simple drills. So I'm going to share my screen for you, and we're going to talk about this. And really, first of all, look at a couple things here in a second. So first, let's talk about. Let's see here. Let me maximize this. Let's talk about just some simple fixes for a bad first step. First of all, common types of a poor first step that you're going to see is a lateral step. Now, a lot of you guys, especially if you're a read and react type of front, you're going to teach a lateral step as your guys' first step. So you would just disregard this one. I'm not bagging on a lateral step. If that's what you're teaching your guys, awesome. But if you're an attack front and then you see your kids taking a lateral step as their first step out of their stance, that is no good. And we all know that if your kids are doing that, that's going to lead to them popping straight up. Their pad level is going to come up. Their eyes are going to be looking over the fence, is what I'll call it, looking over the shoulder pad of the offensive lineman, and they're not gaining any ground. So a lateral step, if you're attack front, is no good. And so that's the first one. We're going to look at those today and look at a couple examples, and we have a simple way that you can fix that in some drills. The next one is this is common with your defensive ends, especially if you're getting a lot of outside run, or your kids are responsible, your defensive ends are responsible for C gap. They don't want to get reached. They want to make sure they're owning their gap, so they step inside their base. So they take their inside foot. Let's say you have a defensive end who's playing on the defensive right, okay? And he's got his left foot back, all right? When that ball snaps, he's going to step. If he's stepping inside his base, he's going to step with his left foot, and it's going to end up stacking right there with his right foot. And he's going to have a really narrow base. And as soon as he makes contact with that offensive lineman, usually this kid will fall down a lot, or he gets gap removed because he has no base. So if you see a defensive end and he's always on the ground and you can't figure out why, go back and watch his first step. I promise you he's probably stepping inside his base. So we'll talk about that and how to fix that one. The next one, and this one's common, and again, when I talk about an overstep, okay, like a lot of you guys, we teach a 6-inch power step. And when I say 6 inches, that's in quotes. I'm not getting out there with a ruler or a tape measure and measuring off 6 inches and making sure they're stepping exactly 6 inches. I say 6 inches, a dollar bill, something like that. It's really not exact. I want them to take a short, quick step and get that step, that second foot back in the ground as fast as possible. So we definitely don't want them overstepping. Now, if it's a passing situation and we're doing a pass rush get off, then that's different. We definitely want them taking a big step out there. But, a lot of times you get these kids who step way too far and they're off balance, and they run into the same kind of issues that a kid does who steps inside his base, and they have no foundation, no base in their stance, and they fall over a lot and they have no power. The next one is the opposite of that, is no step. You see this a lot, and I'll show you some clips here in a second with our cut up here. You see this sometimes when you're facing a run-heavy team, and maybe you're crowding the ball with your guys, and they're making contact with their face and their hands, but they're not bringing their feet with them. And that's sometimes maybe it doesn't seem like a big deal, but, man, you really want to always make sure you're taking that first step. And so that's another issue that you'll see. And then finally, stepping with the wrong foot. And I do understand how this is possible, but this just floors me how kids are able to do this sometimes. They take a first step with their front foot. You see that especially with young kids. And that's all just a result of poor weight distribution in their stance. I don't have any examples of that today, but if that's something you're dealing with, we can go ahead and talk about that right now. If you have a kid, if you're in a let's say again, you have a kid who's on the defensive right. He's got his left hand down, his left foot back, and he's stepping with his right foot. Well, that means he doesn't have enough weight on that foot, because most of his weight should be on his down hand, in this case, his left hand and his right foot. So much so that he ought to be able to pick up his left foot, his inside foot, and not fall over. Okay, he'll be able to pick that foot up and have most of his weight on his upfield foot and his down hand. So those are some common issues that you see with steps, and we're going to talk about, or we're going to look at how to fix those with our clips here. Okay, so let me bear with me a little bit as I kind of work through some of this stuff, this technology stuff here. Okay, so let's look at a few clips here. We're going to talk about just a poor first step. And these first few, you're going to notice, let's look at this kid that's playing nose guard here. This is actually a defensive end who's bumped down to play nose for this snap in this situation. But let's look at his first step. So we're looking at this left foot right here of this kid. Okay, and you're going to notice that he takes a lateral step. All right, and look at his pad level. Okay, so he takes a lateral step, doesn't gain ground, and he's stepping, and this is probably a result of he's been getting double teamed, and so he's anticipating that, so he's going to try to step at that guard, which, and this is a classic, all you D-line coaches watching this know, this is the exact wrong way to play a double team. If you can't try to play both guys, he's got to come off and hit that center, take care of the post key, and then he can turn his hips into the pressure key. But his first step is poor. It's a lateral step. He's stepping at the pressure key, the guard, and so now his pads come up, and he's going to be ineffective in this play because he gives up his chest. Okay, all right. Let's go back and see, and I think this is an example of, we got our nose guard who's bumped out here, defensive tackle number 74 on here on the left. He's taking a lateral step as well. Okay. Nothing happening right there. Pretty good step by number 54 out here to the left. I wish his hands would come with it, but that's a pretty good step right there. And you can see the difference between his pad level. He's able to shed that guy pretty quick, and that's all set up because of a good first step. Okay, so who we're watching here is our nose guard right here. Okay, same thing. He's going to step lateral and whiff on the. Whoop. Sorry about that. He's going to step laterally, and you see he gets whiffed by the guard, by the center. Whiffs on the center and gets reached by the guard. Okay, and obviously, they're rolling out here to his right, throwing a screen. But anyway, his lateral step gives him no shot at hitting the center, and those guys are able to release and get to the next level. So lateral step again is the undoing of his technique here. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, look at our nose guard here. Okay, double team, and he does a decent job with it until the end. All right, but he is stepping out. I think he's stepping at where he thinks the double team is going to be. But he steps. You see, he steps laterally, no power, and that's another thing too with that lateral step is he has no power, no force behind his punch. It's really hard to bring his hips with him and get any knockback when you're stepping like that. Okay. You can also see number 50 out here, really tall kid, and it's difficult for him sometimes to keep his pad level down, but it's especially difficult when he's taking a lateral step there. So see, he's stepping up, and look what happens. His eyes are up. He's looking over the shoulder. Okay, he tries to fix his pad level there, and he gets held, and we do get the call there. But again, really bad first step out of that kid. Okay, Now we're looking at another problem that you see a lot of times. Again, I mentioned with defensive ends. We're looking at 59 right here. Is kids when they step inside their base. Okay, you're going to see if you freeze the film, their feet are together, and now they have no power to work from. They can't push pull. They can't do like do your steer drill. And you see this a lot when we're getting a lot of outside run. Like your stretches, things like that. Maybe some options off the edge. So you see kids doing this. And again, if you take all this back, the source of it is your kids are trying to anticipate instead of just playing what they see. We always say, read the knee, the near knee of that offensive lineman and attack the V of his neck. And they're not doing that. They're trying to guess. And you've seen this if you do your work in your pod drills, with your two offensive linemen and your defensive lineman, and you're standing behind him and you're telling the offensive lineman where to block. We've all seen this where kids will try to guess. Instead of just reading and seeing that knee and coming off and punching, they're going to try to outsmart you and guess right on the drill. And so that's what's happening here is you get kids who are trying to guess and trying to get out there and get on an edge, and they end up bringing their feet together. And again, it brings this kid's pad level up. And so that's another issue is kids stepping inside their base. Incidentally, though, you look at 74 here, our nose guard, that's a much better step by him. See, it's nice and short. He gets punched on that center, and he gets a little bit of penetration. You can't see it so much in this end zone view, but he's able to knock back that center a little bit and dent the line of scrimmage to help slow that zone play down. And obviously, his pad level is way too high. We want him looking up at his thumbs there. That was a pretty decent first step by him. Okay, looking at our defensive end over here on our right. Okay, number 44, watch his first step. Okay, let me freeze it. Okay, see where this is his first step, and this is really two problems combined into one. He oversteps, he steps way too far, and he's stepping right in front of his base. Okay, now if this is a team that threw the ball a lot, and so he's trying to anticipate rushing the passer. Again, you can't anticipate. You got to read that knee right there. And that's going to tell you what's happening, okay? But again, you see him step inside his base, so he has no power. All right, you see his pad level comes up. Now, over here, though, this is a much better first step, okay? And this is an example. This kid over here to the left, 0 college offers. Actually, I'll tell you what, he had 1 Division II offer, but he's not going anywhere. He's just a good solid high school football player. This kid's can go wherever he wants to go. But this kid right here, just really sound fundamentally, and you can see he makes a really good football play right here. Spilling number 77. I wish that he would make that happen sooner. There's way too much space between him. He needs to go ahead and what we call surf technique. He gets arced by the tackle. He needs to start surfing right now and close that space down between him and that guard. But he does a pretty decent job. Like to see him punch a little more and get 77's shoulders turned vertical. But look at his first step. That's kind of what we're focusing on right here. It's okay. It's okay. There's what we're about to get to. The next one is a no step. And he barely takes a step. And you can see this kid. One of his issues was he doesn't bring his hands with him. Okay, and so he's kind of playing blind a little bit. But anyway, a pretty decent way to finish there. Okay, here we go. Another again, same example, number 44 over here on the right, stepping inside his base. Again, we're getting a lot of stretch on this night. He steps inside his base, runs himself out of the play. Now, what you'll see is when it really gets you in trouble is now when they start running. He runs. This tackle gets a cutoff block or he's down blocking whatever, and maybe they're running a counter or a power over here, and now you're stepping outside. You're stepping in your base and anticipating, a reach block or whatever, and now you're way out of position. You don't collision the tackle, and you get kicked out by the guard or the H-back, whatever it may be. And so that's why this is a big problem when you have kids stepping inside their base. It's something that you've got to address and fix. And of course, our pad level across the whole deep front is pretty bad right there. And you can see that. Okay, same thing out of 44 there, steps inside his base. All right, and you can see, we got a fold block going there with the tackle and the guard, but he doesn't see it because he's it looks like he's anticipating. You see that first step. I mean, that's a long first step. It starts It starts. It starts here and it winds up here. Okay. Well, that's not what we want at all. Out of that, definitely want that step being short. Get that knee up out of the ground and back in the ground as fast as possible. A pretty good step right here by number 48. Obviously, pad level not where we want it to be, but a pretty good short, compact step. Decent job with his hands. Okay, that's my favorite clip of the cut up, I believe. Yeah, this is it. All right, look at number 45. Again, this is just your average high school kid right here. Okay, high school football player. Step, boom, there's a punch, and that's all because of that first step. Look at that first step. That's what you want it to. That's what you want it to be right there. Okay, nice, short, compact step. He's able to punch, boom, right there, knocks that guy off who's trying to go to our linebacker. Now again, you have this kid here, all kinds of offers and all that kind of stuff. Well, look at the difference. Watch his first step. He steps inside his base. You can't even see his first step. So he does not get much on the tackle who's going to block, who's down block. Actually, that's the tight end. Okay, misses him and doesn't get the spill. Okay, and that all goes back to a poor first step. Also, you can't really see it here. He doesn't do it much here, but this is the game where our nose guard really stopped taking a step. You know, he was crowding the ball. He was anticipating getting cut. And so he's really crowding the ball and really launching off with his face and hands, but he's still got to bring that step there because that's how he's going to have more power and explosiveness by driving off that front foot, okay, and bringing that back foot with him. Now, another thing, too, that you might be noticing looking at this, let me show you. Okay, look at these, look at his heels right here, okay? See how they're pointed in? So that's, what do you think that's going to do to his first step? Well, he's going to, if his heels are pointed in, he's going to step outside, right? And that's where his step's going to naturally take him. Or if it's not, he's going to have to correct it in flight, make an in-flight adjustment. We don't want to do that on that first step, okay? Their heels ought to be straight up to slightly out, so they're stepping straight ahead. All right, so let's talk about how to fix those things, okay? All right. Okay, so let's talk about a couple drills. And you know, for us, we're doing get-off drills every single day. It's how we start practice, but we'll layer a lot of stuff into it. So it's not just us simply getting off the ball. It's going to be some change of direction. You know, it could be, you know, we could work some different things in there and obviously get under the chute and do it, you know, all sorts of things. So I think that this could, you know, sometimes guys, they get away from doing get-off drills because they think it's a waste of time. You're doing working get-offs and other things, but I think especially for if you're coaching high school kids, it's extremely important because you always need to be monitoring that stance and that first step because, you know, as the season wears on, they can start to develop bad habits. And it's like a garden, man. You got to constantly be weeding it and pruning it and keeping it looking nice. It's just not going to, you know, you don't just plant flowers and go, all right, I'm done. You know, you got to constantly maintain and keep those looking good. Otherwise, it's going to, you know, the weeds are going to come in and it's just not going to look good. And, so you got to stance and step are kind of the same way. You got to constantly be tweaking it and looking at it and making sure that it's where it's supposed to be. So first, a couple of things that you can do if you're having some issues with some of these things that we just talked about. Okay, the first thing here is you look over here on the left and you see this Gilman bag. You see this agility bag, and I put Gilman here because that's what kind of bags we have, and I'll talk about why I put that there here in a second. But what you can do first of all is, okay, these X's are your kids' feet, okay? So right now, we would say this kid is in a right-handed stance, meaning this is his left foot, this is his right foot. We got a heel-to-toe stagger, okay? This is, this is to represent heel-to-toe stagger right here, okay? His toes should be right at the edge or the bottom edge of this Gilman patch, and his back foot should be right at the corner, okay? And you want his feet right up against that agility bag. And that may be a little more narrow than what you want out of your stance, so you can widen their feet out a little bit. But here's the deal. So what we're doing is we're going to have them line up, and they're going to have, again, front foot here, back foot here, and on the ball, on the visual key, or however we're doing that, visual key, they're going to take a step. And really what we talk about is we want to focus off driving off your up foot, okay? So in this case, our left foot is up. So we're going to drive off that foot, get that right knee out of the ground, and put it right back down in the ground. Okay, and we want that step happening before or right at this Gilman patch. Don't let it go past. And so this Gilman patch, and you'll have, whatever the brand of the bag is you have, or you can just put some tape. I've done that before. Just put a strip athletic tape there. And you just want to make sure that they're not stepping past that. And that just gives them a visual key, okay? And also, what this keeps them from doing is you can, if you want to take this to the next level, is you can put a tackle here and have him do a down block or a reach block. And then just make sure the kid's taking his first step every time. If he steps inside his base, he's going to step on the bag, okay? If he's taking a lateral step, you're going to notice that because you're going to see he's going to step away from that bag. So that's a way of making sure that these guys, that their step is, again, in how we're teaching it. You may be teaching or even replace your down hand. That's fine. But you still want that thing, their foot running right alongside this bag, that first step, okay? And so this is a good drill to fix where they're stepping inside their base, taking a lateral step, not taking a step. This is the foot you're watching. You can see if they don't take a step, it's really obvious. So that's a really quick way that you can identify what their problems are and then fix it. Okay. The other thing that you can do is you can flip this bag now to where, okay, so this is the line of scrimmage here, or where you're starting. So now that bag is parallel. Okay. And so now let's pretend we're in a right-handed stance here. This is my left foot. This is my right foot. Okay. When the ball snapped, he's going to step over this bag and step right there on top, or right there. His heel ought to be scraping the side of this bag. Okay. And so what this is working on is oversteps. If you have kids who are taking really big steps, or again, if they're stepping all over the place, this makes it easy to see. But what this really works is driving off that front foot and getting that back knee out of the ground. I want them to really focus on getting that knee up and then back in the ground as fast as possible. Okay. If you have kids who ride dirt bikes or four-wheelers or motorcycles, even, you sometimes when you're changing gears or whatever on that, with your foot, that's kind of what we're wanting to do with that knee. Get it up and then get it back down to the ground. Okay. And so that's another way that you can do that. And if, again, I know these agility bags are wider than 6 inches. I get it, okay? It's not a perfect illustration. Maybe they're stepping a little farther, but I want them thinking about where their step goes. Now, the last thing I want them doing when we get in a game is thinking about where their step goes. We're just creating that muscle memory, okay? And this is just to put it in their mind of where they're stepping, and it kind of gives them an idea of where they're stepping, gives you an idea where they're stepping, and then how you can go about fixing that. You don't have to use bags. If you have anything, the boards that offensive linemen will get on sometimes, those are really good to use. I've seen coaches use different, things with PVC pipe and stuff like that you can use. So bags you don't have to use bags, but I think something with a visual key will really help your guys. Another thing is one-legged get-offs. And what that is I already kind of mentioned this or alluded to this, is, whatever hand you have down, okay, in your stance, let's say it's our right hand down, you would have your kids pick up their right foot, just barely, okay? They don't need to look like a dog peeing on a fire hydrant, okay? Just barely pick that foot up, all right? And then when you snap the ball, they ought to drop that foot as they drive off with their front leg, okay? And that foot ought to land, it's going to naturally land where it should be, okay? They don't need to think about stepping with that foot, just let it drop. So drive off your front foot and let that back foot just drop. And you're going to see that it's going to drop where it should, okay? And if it doesn't, then it's really obvious. You can see if they're stepping outside or they're stepping inside their base, if they're overstepping, and then you can fix it, okay? So that's another thing. And then another thing that we'll do is chest layout progression. So what we'll do there And this is really less for step, and this is more for pad level, and just driving off that front leg to teach that. But the first thing we'll do is we're going to get in our stance. They're going to get a visual key, a ball snap or whatever it is. Maybe I'm moving my foot, and they're going to drive off that front leg and dive out on the ground. And they need to be at, like, we're talking like 3 inches off the ground. This isn't a belly flop contest at the city pool. Okay, driving off the ground and getting as far as they can. All right. So it's really about getting how far they can get, not how high they can get. And so that's another thing that you can do is drive off that front leg. And that's going to teach them to drive off that front leg. Then the progression is then now, once you have them do it without taking a step, now you can have them take a 6-inch step, and then now they're lay out on 2 feet. Okay. And again, that's just teaching them to be explosive and working at explosion. So that's another thing that you can do. And those are just some real simple, very basic drills that you can do to fix any issues that you're having with your stance. Okay. Let's see if I can, yeah, there we go. All right, so that does it for our video today. And we're going to be doing some more of this. And we have some pretty cool stuff coming down the pipeline for you on the visual side of things on our YouTube channel. But this is just us kind of just sort of testing the waters and getting this stuff out there. But if you've never checked our podcast out, we have new episodes released every Monday. You can follow us on Twitter at KYPD Podcast. You can follow me, my personal Twitter page, and that's at Coach Taylor 53. You can also send us an email if you have suggestions of, hey, Coach, you know, you should bring this D-line coach on, or can we cover this topic, or can we talk about this? I love hearing feedback and getting feedback from you guys, and you can contact us by email by emailing us at kypdpodcast@gmail.com. That's it for us today. Have a great week, and keep your pads down.